Hey everyone, welcome back to Someone's PC. How do I start this off? Okay, so we're gonna ignore the past two videos I wanted to do on Northern Bats and some other rogue decks, probably for next week. The people I wanted to talk to, meet up with, and do the video with have been on and off of like creating a solid schedule with me. But what I wanted to do for this video, or the next one in the series pretty much, is talk about like the most hyped deck that came out of week 1 cities and all the marathons, and that is Yveltal Gallade Zoroark. And a lot of people have been posting on Burbank asking me, or like just talking on Facebook and statuses in general about the deck, how to build it, what it looks like, all this stuff. This deck is so basic that you should be able to do it yourself. I understand that people want to beg for lists and be lazy and all that, and that's why I made this video, so you guys can get like the basic, really like just black and white version of this deck. And I can say I used the deck already. I play with it. I didn't play it in tournament, but it's very, very good and very, very consistent. It also gives you tons of options through attackers like Mindjack, Darkness Blade, Oblivion Wing, Yveltal Ex, all this stuff, and Gallade. So just like every other Archie's build, you're gonna have like a huge amount of trainers. And if your opponent plays Toad and you don't get it out first turn, then you're going to have a couple of awkward hands moving into like the mid and late game stages of the game. But to get into the deck list, there's 2 Shaymin for consistency. You open one, or like you already Maxie's turn 1 and you need to start establishing again turn 2. Then it's good to put Shaymin on the bench. You're playing DCE, so you can just Sky Return back to your hand anyway if you're going to get into like weird prize exchange with Night March or Vespi or something like that. 3 baby Yveltals. You can play 4 just because you want to open it. It's your best opener. But for my particular build, I only like 3. I also don't have a 4th one in PC Go, so that's me being lazy and not putting it on here. If you don't know what this does by now, then I don't know. Look it up. I don't feel like reading it. It's pretty good. Yveltal Ex. You can play 1. I prefer playing 2. Evil Ball is really good. Wide Cyclone is one of the best attacks in the game, just because you can transfer DCE from Yveltal Ex into a Gallade, and then if your opponent takes a revenge KO onto your Yveltal, you didn't really burn too many resources, other than like a Darkness Energy, so easy peasy. 2/2 Zoroark line has stand-in, has Mindjack, which is one of the best attacks I've ever seen in this game since I started playing like 2 years ago. It does 10 plus 30 more for each bench on your opponent's side of the board. The way the current game state's going, everyone needs to throw up a bunch of Pokemon on their bench to like establish their Shaymin early, or trying to get their engines going, do like Bronzong, maybe their own like Gallade, and they need Zorua lines to like stay up. They need a bench like a Yveltal Ex behind a baby Ev to start getting Oblivion Wing too. So this card's gonna be taking a lot of prizes. If not, if your opponent can't really respond to it in 1 turn, you can take like a 2 prize swing for 1 if your opponent has like 2 non-EXs out. So I saw a bunch of like solo Zoroark decks over the weekend at North Carolina mini cities, which I did horrible at, by the way. It was 3 horrible cities in a row. But when I witnessed like all these decks playing Zoroark as by itself, and I'm thinking to myself, like your opponents must be stupid. Like they're benching like 4 or 5 Pokemon. They're asking to get Mindjack. They're asking to get bodied by this card. But looking at their engines with like Zubats, or like a hefty back row with like Bronzong, or maybe like Vespi, and they need to set up like 2 Shaymins in order to get their engine going, and then they need to bench multiple Combees. They were just getting bodied by the Zoroark, and I forgot what the player was playing at. I'm sorry, forgot your name, dude. But he was playing like a 4/4 Zoroark line with 2 or 3 break and a Slurpuff. It was just bodying people on day 1, and then I think he switched decks for day 2 and 3. But this card's broken. You don't need to play the break, because the break is going to give you like an extra card in your hand that might stop you from getting Maxies if you get that unlucky. If you don't draw an Ultra Ball, and then you're able to get like, you know, your Zorua and then your Zoroark line, but you need to establish your Maxies right now before your opponent runs away with Manetrix, then you don't want to have the break there. It's also a little bit win more. Like, you play it and you're like, oh, I got the breakout, cool, I can foul play all this other garbage. You don't need all that. You can just use Yveltal Ex and baby Yveltal and Gallade to establish a bunch of damage. So it's not really necessary. You can add one in if you feel like it. I don't think it's needed. And here's the big hype of the deck. Gallade. For DCE, you do 16 if you play a supporter, which you probably will. Then you do 150, and you can premonition. A lot of people are forgetting to premonition every single time they start their turn, and that's what I've been noticing a lot during cities. I'm sorry if I'm rambling here and just going off, but yeah, don't make that mistake. Remember your premonition. Remember you have this broken ability on your bench that lets you choose which you're going to Trainer's Mail next, lets you choose what you're going to Acro Bike into. Battle Compressor can thin your deck out, and then you can premonition probably out of like what 15 to 20 cards you have left. So it's a really, really good card, and its premonition is the reason I don't think you need too many Sycamore in this deck. How do I speak to that? Like, basically, if you're gonna be playing tons of Sycamore, you're kind of burning out your premonition, and the way this deck flies with Acro Bikes, Compressors, Trainer's Mail, Ultra Ball, and then the Shaymins and stuff, you don't need to Sycamore probably more than twice in one game, unless your opponent had an amazing start and yours was kind of mediocre. So yeah, Gallade's beast. The whole deck is really consistent. The Pokemon lineup's really solid. You don't need a break. There you go. For trainers, 4 Acro Bike, 4 Battle Compressor, 4 Trainer's Mail, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 VS Seeker, with 3 bands and 2 floatstones. But to talk about the engine, you can cut down the Acro Bike to 3, the Trainer's Mail to 3, and the Battle Compressor down to 3 if you want to. Maybe you want to fit in some tech like Parallel City or Shadow Circle or other things to help you with the Manectric matchup, which you don't really need, because if you get Gallade out, you're going to body Manectric anyway. But yeah, you can make little cuts there to kill your consistency, maybe like 2 or 3% of drawing it in your opening hand. But those cards are really, really good, and just try out the build where every card's maxed and see how quickly you get Gallade established, and not just Gallade, how like the other components of your deck flow. Like when you open a baby Yveltal and you get a Zorua, and then you get to the Yveltal Ex, and then you get to this Acro Bike, Battle Compressor, Trainer's Mail, Ultra Ball, and you're able to see anything you want at any point in time, and you're just getting consistent good hand after good hand. It makes me feel like I'd rather keep the consistency for these one-game matches during cities than try to go for like a Shadow Circle or some other things. So those are thoughts. For VS Seeker, of course, I play in AZ. Some people don't. I just don't like the concept of my opponent Lysandre, like a dead Shaymin on my bench, and I'm on my final DCE on my Gallade or something, and it's gonna be awkward for me to retreat him without decking out. Another issue I've seen with a lot of people playing this deck is they get Gallade established and they have full control, and they keep burning resources like Acro Bike, Trainer's Mail, and Sycamore just to draw cards. Like, I know the concept of drawing cards is gorgeous and it feels good, but you don't have to do that in order to run away with a game. Like, the deck is very solid, and at a certain point, once you have Baby Ev Gallade established with DCE on it, Yveltal Ex and like 1 Zoroark, you can kind of chill. Like, sit on your hand, try to get compressors away, and like sit on like 2 Seekers so you can have a Lysandre and discard, and pretty much keep the status quo, the fact that you're ahead and you don't need to rush ahead. I saw about 4 or 5 times over the cities weekend where people won the game. Like, their game state was gorgeous, and they kept going. They kept Acro Biking, kept Battling Compressor, kept Trainer's Mailing, and they ended up decking out. Right? When they deck out, I heard complaints. They're like, "Oh man, like that was so whack. I was so close to finishing. I prized my DCE, or I lost because I prized this VS Seeker, this and that." No, it's because you played bad and you kept Battling Compressor, you kept Acro Biking, you kept Trainer's Mailing, and you let yourself get decked out. Like, rethink your options and how you're going to progress the game to get your final 6 prizes before you start doing stupid stuff like Battle Compressing and Acro Biking for no reason, and just letting yourself get to the point where you're going to get decked out. So yeah, with that in mind, Hex Amniac is good. Judge is good, so you can get less decked out more often if you have to establish Gallade late. Like, if you establish Gallade probably turn 3 or 4, and you already burned off like your Compressor, your Acro, or like 2 Acros and like a Trainer's Mail, and your deck's getting super thin because you had a Shaymin or like Shaymin once or twice, then you need to think about compiling your hand and then judging yourself down after having like a 12 or 13 card hand, so that way your opponent doesn't play like a Bumblebee or something and then decks you out or bodies you just because you couldn't get knockouts before you're about to deck out. So Judge is good. I lost many games this weekend to Judge in situations where my opponent should have got bodied. Like instant. I think there's one game against a really funny Lucario Bats player. He was at 2 prizes left to my. I was at 2 to his 6, and he judged me when I was playing Toad Bats, and then he proceeded to kick my face in with the 4 strong energy banded Lucario, as I just dead drew one card after another for 5 extra turns after the judge, and it was adorable. So I think turn 1 judge is broken. If you're able to get like your Maxie's established on turn 1, then you go for a turn 2 judge and you run away with the game because you have Premonition plus Acro Bike to get all your Via Seekers and Lysandres, then you're going to see how strong Judge is in the game when it's sitting behind this like sick engine of Premonition plus stand-in and everything. You play 2 Maxie's Hidden Ball Tricks, so that way you don't prize 1 in your Manectric matchup and lose because of it. 2 Birches because we don't have too much draw support. That's good. I like it over Shauna because if you hit 7, it's good. It feels good to hit 7. 3 Sycamore. Some builds might play 4. Others might play 2. The people that play 2 are very intelligent, and that means they see that whole I don't need a Sycamore this many times, or I'm going to deck out, or I need to draw this many resources. Possibly discarding VS Seekers early on when you need them for late game, or you need them to establish your Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick. So you might see 2 in a lot of lists. It's very good. You can go down to 2. I personally like 3. I draw like crap and I prize like crap. Just trying to be like an objective person here, but I draw pretty unlucky, so I like playing 3. 4 is a little bit too much. You can play it in other decks that don't have this huge speed engine, or a speed engine that doesn't necessarily need to keep drawing like through Acro Bike or keep thinning out your deck or using Premonition and stuff. So yeah, 3's fine. Floatstone I like 2. You don't need it instantly. Almost every card in this deck that you open with can turn into a useful attacker, or if you open a Shaymin, you can Sky Return it back to your hand and then play Baby Ev, and it's like Floatstone the Baby Ev or Zorua, and go from there. 3 Muscle Band standard. 4 DZEs because you can use it on Gallade, Zoroark, and Yveltal Ex and Shaymin. This deck's stupid. And then 7 Dark Energy. Some people have gone down to 6. I like 7 again because I prize like crap, and if I prize 2 Dark Energy and I Battle Compressor way 2 just to establish like Baby Ev early, and you don't open the Dark Energy alongside it, then you have 3 left in your deck off of your Sycamore, Maxie's, or possibly Judge or Birch, and I don't like the odds of that. So the extra 1 feels like it helps me out. I don't really have logic behind it, but 7 sounds like a good number. If you guys wanted to make changes to it, I'd say you can bump up the Yveltal to 4. You could possibly play a break if you want to. It's kind of win more, but that's just my opinion. I'm just a guy. I can always be wrong. You can go to like a 3-3 Zoroark if you really think that's good, but if you play against a good player and their engine necessarily doesn't have to have like 4 or 5 Pokemon on the bench, then they can start playing correctly and lower your Mind Jack damage. And if they can like get early knockouts on Yveltal Ex and Yveltal, then you're gonna have weak moments. But in that sense, you just sensitive blade them and body them, so not that bad. Shadow Circle, I tested it for a bit. I feel like it's really not needed. If you're going against electric, lightning, whatever you call it, you can just Gallade them. And if you don't get Gallade out, then you lost anyway, so don't worry about it. Let's see what else. What beats the deck? I don't know. Fighting's good against it, somewhat, depending on their start. Jeez. Yeah, the fighting resistance too from like Baby Ev and Yveltal Ex is really good. So I guess you can Vespi and try to force awkward numbers if they miss the Gallade, and if your opponent's playing like a small bench Vespi and they were to establish early and you can't get Mind Jacks to 1-hit KO your Vespi Queen, then you might be in a decent position there, or like in a bad position on your end. You're just playing Zoroark, but on their end, yeah, it's pretty good. I can't think of much else. I mean, I guess if Manectric started being intelligent and started teching 4 Flash Energy, then it could turn into a weird matchup. But at that point, they still can't 1-hit KO Gallade, which is just going to 2-shot them in the mouth. So you might need to play a conservative manner if you see like a flash energy to try and go for a second Gallade. So don't try to Sycamore away your hand or like use your premonitions to keep Acro Biking. Just keep a mindset that you're going to play Maxies twice. Or even 3 times, because if you get that lucky, then yeah, good for you. You're gonna body them. Yeah, that should be it. Deck's really good. Try it out. I didn't play this version this weekend. I played one with Regirock in it. I had 2 Regirocks, a Smeargle, and then a 4 Baby Ev with a 2/2/1 Zoroark line. And I really liked the deck. My 2 losses were to a Manectric Regice deck because I opened like crap, and I think she made 3 Mega Manectric on turn 2 and then Turbo Bolted my face in. So that was a pretty bad matchup to try and catch up with. Another one was against a Yveltal Ex deck, and I prized 4 VS Seeker, a Sycamore, and Ultra Ball. So I went to Compressor and I looked and I was like, well, I didn't see those little blue shield thingies. And I looked again and there's all 4 prize. I was like, well, this is gonna be a tough game. And yeah. 1 game matches, play consistency cards. Don't play hot tech. If you want to do anything to beat Tyrantrum, play your Parallel City, and they instantly lost. So, as someone who loves Tyrantrum, and I want to be a Dino boy for life, it can't do it. Like if your opponent plays Parallel City and you didn't Chaos Will them last turn, it's really, really tough. Really, really hard. Feel free to comment, ask me questions. I like having discussions, or message me on Facebook, whatever, and just to talk about the deck. It's really good, really consistent. I recommend this build over the Regirock build. The reason I play the Regirock build is because I'm scared I'm not going to get Gallade out against Manectric, and I think I'm an idiot for that, and I'm probably going to start playing this one. So, good luck at everyone this weekend at Cities. Yeah, we should have a couple more videos out within the next couple days, but this is the highest priority in my eyes because a lot of people have been asking me about it. So, take it easy, guys. Thanks for logging in.